What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Final Empress banner related to the Golden Destinations SaGa celebration. Well, the first style, Final Empress, it's a multi-purpose character that actually helps you receive less damage versus bosses, buffs endurance and will, and even has a gimmick where she can apply evasion to the party. We have Elysed, that is a nuker that also decreases the action order of an enemy and debuffs so that she can try to stop fast enemies from acting before they can apply ailments on you. Remember Time Lord on 180? Spiral Corridor? Well, that's right. Then we have Sacha, that is a BP generator in reverse. Kinda like Valdor, but a little different. But now let's talk about Final Empress. She gives the name to the banner. We have 114% STR and 104% agility. So she has good STR, but not enough to become a real nuker, but good agility so that she can apply some of her effects fast. 85% endurance is good, and 97% will is very good. She's not gonna get inflicted with ailments so easily. She does have high glove as well because she can heal. Moving on for passives, the first one is Karatsu Hysteria Ward, reduces damage taken for all allies by 25%. Oh my god, what they have done to Final Empress. In JP it's only 10%. 25% is just like having a guard up medium active at all times. And well, I guess the closest comparison is gonna be Death, because Death has 30%. But Death steals 1 LP from you because of that. But Death also has a revive that will trigger once per battle. Well, there are other characters like, for example, Muse. Muse has Scrum Guard inside of her passive. So, as long as everyone is alive, she decreases damage taken by 20%. That's important, guys. Scrum Guard needs everyone to be alive to reduce damage taken by 20%. Why is she reducing it by 25% at all times? Well, Final Empress is now very strong. That I can tell you. And it's not just that. On start of fight, she gets 11 BP, and also by the start of every turn, she buffs Endurance and Will by 15%. Endurance and Will, well, in this case, she's more similar to the likes of, well, Razen. But why Razen? Because he can use Relief Zone, that's a spell that will buff Will by 25%, then he gets an extra 15% for Endurance and Will. So, in the end, you get 15% Endurance, 40% Will. Well, now you get only 15%, but that is passively. You always get that value with Empress. And even through your comparing characters, in the end, sometimes you may need even 3 will buffers to survive some very specific content. So you can bring Final Empress, you can bring Muse, you can bring Razen, and they will just be very good together. But which other characters we use for Endurance buff? We can use Maria, because she gives you also Scrum Guard, decreasing damage taken by 20% when everyone is alive. But with Golden Dragon Dance, we buff all status by 25% every 2 turns on average. That's fine, but Maria buffs all other status as well, especially offensive ones, and give you a heal. And she also has Light of the Sun, that's a heal with evasion that's super useful in some hard challenges. But I'm just showing you that, well, you have very good effect just with Final Empress passively. Now, the other character that we use to buff Endurance is Metric. Can be any of her versions, but you go for that inheritance called Paean of Victory. That buffs STR, Endurance, Agility, and Intelligence. Will is more easy to find. You can use Muse, you can also use Melissa, you can use multi offers as well. But Metric for Endurance has been the best one. Now for Will, we have competition. That's why I said that for Endurance, it's super nice to have Empress now. But Metric still has a 30% buff that she can use every turn, and that is a bigger value, and if you want that Endurance, you can actually just sacrifice damage reduction in that case. Another good point about this is that it triggers on the start of turn. That means that enemies that are pretty fast will always see... Another good point of this is that it triggers on the start of turn, so you will always have this buff available before the enemy attacks you, and sometimes bosses can self-buff their agility or action order, allowing them to go before you. But this time, it won't work. You always have these effects available. Wheel buffs are always important because it will allow you to resist ailments and debuffs as well. Not just that, she also gives all surviving allies a confusion and unconscious resistance of a very large effect. On JP, the value seems to be between 45 to 50%, not entirely sure. It's pretty big. They also say that it's similar to having wheel buffs of similar effect. The good thing is that enemies cannot remove this from you. If they can break your wheel buffs, you still have this to try to protect you, just like with Maria, when Maria applies ailment resistance. Hence why she's also super interesting. With Sunlight Blow, you buff all status elements resistance with large effect. This means that it's good. Yes, even when you are not using, you should consider this as a plus. Moving on to the second passive, Voltage Force 2. She grants herself a heat up, increasing damage potential by 20%, max of 5 times per battle, reaching 100% by turn 5. She also gets 2 BP by the end of a turn. Then the last one, we have Dauntless Resolve, that when our allies are surviving, her own attacks increases by 30%, and when she's get an attack that calls resist, damage taken will be reduced by 40%. There's just one problem here. Your allies need to be alive in order for her reduction to work, and she needs to also be well equipped in order for that resist to happen. So nice, because she actually wants everyone to be alive in her design, but be careful. Now, in the end, she gets another 1 BP. That means that she's a 6 BP per turn character with access to 100% damage increase via heat ups and another 30 for a total of 130. And buffs and Ransom will every single turn, and will also just give you resistance and damage reduction of 25%. Now going for our skills, the first one is called Holy Protection Blade. It's a single target attack with only 1 BP cost that has the power and grants all surviving allies squared up small that decreases damage taken by 12%. Well, this is not a fast attack, so that means that you need to go first, place her on a position that does not decrease her speed so that she can give you some extra protection. The second one is called Dual Holy Moon, when she actually just uses Holy Moon 2 times. Holy Moon is a skill from her Christmas style that actually costs only 2 BP when casted by the Christmas style, and it's an AoE attack with deep power that also recovers HP by around 300 in her maxed Final Empress. So, around 600 healing by use of Dual Holy Moon. In JP it costed 9 BP, here in global it's 8. If you consider the power of the skill, you get something close to double S power. And in the end, it's just double S power AoE attack that you not be using for farming, but I don't think the healing is good enough. Polka with Rising Blade Phoenix, he can actually heal for around 1.2 thousand in current game for 9, just one more for double the healing. But, well, it is just something that you can use on desperation. If you are really needing of a heal and no one else in the party can do that, you can use it. Then the third one is called Karatsu Wisteria Blade. It's a fast attack, single target with Slash and Sun again, and it recovers all surviving allies HP by very small effect, that will be around 300, and grants all surviving allies this Karatsu Castle Blessing for only 1 turn. And this is something actually pretty amazing. Karatsu Castle Blessing, it's 2 different passives attached to all surviving allies. When your HP is full, you have a 25% chance to evade enemy attacks. Evade is better than damage block because you can even evade ailments. So, if all of your characters are on full HP, they will have that 25% chance to trigger. If they don't trigger, they are going to take damage, right? So, when they are not on full HP, they will always evade 1 enemy attack. So, if you didn't evade, you're not on full HP, and now you will evade the second attack, since this only lasts for 1 turn. It's used for enemies that attack more than once, but most of them do attack more than once anyway. So there's 2 layers of defense here, and sadly you can only use this every 2 turns. But if a boss attacks with just 2 times, this is gonna be very useful, because you can use Karatsu Wisteria Blade. The next turn you're gonna use your Holy Protection Blade, because you have a perfect cycle of 12 BP cost. and you decrease a little more of the damage because of the guard up. You can also use your best skills, like for example, if you are using Liz has Karatsu Water Wall, and she decreases damage taken by 50%. You should use that when your Karatsu Hysteria Blade is not available. But Empress still works super well with Death. Like I said, Death has 30% reduction, then 25% reduction. On Empress, we always have 25% reduction and that evasion mechanic. Now, we can talk about inheritance, and there are some interesting stuff that will work here. First of all, it comes from her Christmas style, Christmas Moon. This one is a 12 BP skill. She does not start with 12, she starts with 11, but you can use it on the second turn, and this applies defense boost medium, decreasing damage taken by 25%, lasts for 4 turns. Because she gets 6 BP per turn, after the second cast, you actually have 2 layers of defense, and she already has 1 extra layer from her passive. So minus 25, minus 25, and then minus 25 again. And what's even better, this attack is fast. That means that it will always go before the enemy can attack you. That's a lot of defense boosts, but you have then to ignore her evasion mechanics, since then you will not have enough BP. Depending on the fight, it's just better to go with the defense boosts. Depending on the fight, it will be better to use the evasion mechanic. I think it will depend on the number of enemy attacks. If you don't have the Christmas style, you can also use the latest one with Down Moonblade. This skill here is interesting because it casts Morale Down Medium, Morale Up Medium, and also Action Order Up for 7 BP. And that means that she can sometimes use the evasion mechanic, and Morale Down Medium decreases damage taken by 25%. It's very similar to also improving your defenses by 25%. But then you will also be increasing the damage of all surviving allies by 25%, and the action order up can help against some very specific fights where enemies will self-buff and try to apply ailment on you before you can do something. Like, of course, Time Lord on stage 180. You cannot stack Morale Down Medium though, so you have less defense, but you have more effects, and you can cycle this together with your Guard Up Small. So now your cycle is just 8 BP, and with all that's left, you can simply go and use sometimes Karatsu Hysteria Blade. Then we have this other inheritance that comes from her new S style that you can get on the event, where we have Swallow Reversal Plus. This is a triple S attack with only 8 BP. That means that she can also use a 9 BP cycle of Swallow Reversal and then Guard Up Small. And the good thing about this is that it grants defense down. That decreases the enemy defense by 15%. It stacks and lasts for 3 turns, so that you can try to increase the damage of your party. But that's only if you are too safe on a fight. You don't need the extra layers of defense or something else. I don't think it's worth if you already have any of her past styles. If you don't, if you are just a starting player, that's okay to inherit. She can though also inherit Moonlight from her first Lunar style or from her other New Year style. That is a recover heal spell that grants Morale Up Medium for 2 turns and recovers HP by quite a lot. It has C power. Since she has lots of love, it works as well. Another inheritance that will always work is Waterfall Blade Plus. That is a column attack with 8 power. For farming situations, it can sometimes solo, but not always. And then we have her Global Axe style in the end here, where she has Imperial Shield. The Imperial Shield can give you damage block for 1 turn, but it uses 2 LP. It still be better than just 1 hit evasion, depending on the situation. Since she gets 6 BP per turn, she can actually use this on turn 1, and then again on turn 4, sometimes on turn 3 if you have AP generation. Quadruple Moon Strike can also be an inheritance to do damage, because this uses 11, but it recovers 4, so actually only spends 7. Since she got 6, she can use this almost every turn in a boss fight if you like to do so, but I guess she's more for support than anything else. In the end, you could also say that she has some similarity with Melissa, Global X style, because she has this skill called Water Lilies that has 9 BP cost and gives all surviving allies Phantom. That gives you 25% chance to evade, but no, Final Empress is much better. Just a chance to evade, it's not a guarantee. And we have a guarantee to evade after you are not on full HP anymore. So, Final Empress is a very strong character, and also the definition of power creep, which is gonna receive an OP grade in the tier list, and it's gonna be relevant for the time being. And even if you had summoned it for death, I would still recommend summoning for Final Empress because they work well together and her buff on passive is really amazing. The next character is Elysed, and she has good status, but nothing here is on top. We have 117% intelligence and 99 agility. Good, but we have seen higher. Endurance is 74, normal for mages, and will is just 100. That's also something that we saw before. Love and charisma are a little above the normal because she can inherit healing spells, although she comes with none. Now, passive number 1, Super Lightning Strike. By the end of a turn, she always gets 25 points of OD Gauge. Remember that you need 100 to use Overdrive. Then when activating an Overdrive attack, she will trigger Lightning Spike on rank 1. That I'll be talking more in a few. Block Force 2 when attack damage taken will be reduced by 25%, and then Offensive Breath through gives her another 25% damage reduction. She starts the fight with 11 and has 5 VP per turn and 20% damage increase. Well, 2 damage reduction passives reminds me of Global Axe Witch's daughter, and she also has similar status. That's good, she's not gonna take too much damage. But only 20% damage increase? That seems low. Skill number 1, Wide Rose Bind. It's a single target slash and pierce attack that is free with E power. The damage is not important, but you would never need to use Bonk. Always use this skill if you don't have VP. Tries to debuff agility by 15% on max level. So, she can actually be used to debuff sometimes if you desperately need that. The second skill is called Azalea Dance. She buffs her intelligence by up to 50%, but starts on 40. You actually have to manually level this up to get the max value, and grants the user Super Lightning Spike for 3 turns, but it's actually only the 2 next turns, because, well, the turn that you cast is also counted for. It costs only 3 BP, so she can actually use this whenever she wants, and Super Lightning Spike is the passive that calls for Lightning Strike when activating an Overdrive attack, and also gives her 25 points of OD Gauge. So if you start a fight with this Azalea Dance, you will actually get 25 plus 25 points of Overdrive, plus another 25 from her skill itself. So 75 points of Overdrive in that specific turn. If she gets hit more than 3 times, that is 4 times, she can actually get into Overdrive in the same turn. That's pretty funny, to be honest. So, you are actually just doubling her Super Lightning Strike passive. But what exactly is Lightning Spike? When used as a normal attack, it costs 11 BP. She has 11, so she can use it on turn 1. It has triple S power, lightning and pierce damage. When the attack lands, she grants Action Order Down, that decreases the speed of attacks from the enemies by 40%. That's a pretty big value. And then, when the attack lands, there's also a chance to debuff intelligence by up to 20% on max level. The Action Order Down, it's guaranteed. It will always apply. The intelligence debuff has a chance, but, well, she has very high intelligence. Mages are the best types of debuffers. And here I have to say, this was designed to fight versus Time Lord on Spiral Corridor 180. Because he's pretty fast, he tries to instant kill you, and if you reduce his action order, he will not be as fast to use his dangerous attacks, and you can actually buff yourself before the enemy attack. If you have Final Empress, even better, because she buffs passively on the start of turn, not after using skills. That enemy also uses intelligence-based spells. That means that if you are debuffing intelligence, you are less likely to get inflicted with instant kill or even reduce the damage taken. And, well, you probably not want to have Razan in that fight, because Razan debuffs all other status and will trigger the fight weakness more often. Usually they release characters that are geared towards Pyro with the same amount of intelligence debuff you actually need, but if you are using this too many times in a row, it will still trigger the fight weakness, but on the next turn sometimes. Sometimes boss uses it before attacking, it will depend. But, now, let's say you started a fight and you use it as a Azalea Dance. Let's say you got hit 4 times. On turn 2, you will actually attack with Lightning Spike 3 times. 1 via command, the second and third via Super Lightning Spike. 3 hits of triple S power, exactly, lots of damage. and she will have her intelligence buff, and you will apply action order down 3 times as well. It has some interesting usages. It's not something that will work all the time, but I really like that she's lightning and pierce damage. It's a pretty rare combination. We saw it with Merlot-Syrah, but Merlot-Syrah is more for farming than boss fights, so it's nice that she's not competing with slash damage dealers or something else. Now, just because she only has 20% damage increase, don't think that she is weak. She's gonna do some very big damage because her cycle wants her to use Azalea Dance in order to get intelligence buffs. And also, sometimes you may not get into overdrive. You're gonna use this on turn 1, then you're probably gonna use Wild Rose Bind on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you're gonna use Lightning Spike. If you have Valdor, for example, in your party, he's gonna help her by quite a lot. It will use only 1 BP for Azalea Dance, and it will use just 9 for Lightning Spike. So her cycle is now much better, and she can use Azalea Dance, Lightning Spike, Azalea Dance, Lightning Spike with a perfect cycle. And since Lightning Spike lasts for 3 turns, some turns you have an extra attack on Overdrive. You see even 4 attacks of Lightning Spike on Overdrive. Especially if you buff it 2 times, damage is gonna be nice. Although she was designed for stage 180, she will work in other stages as well, as confirmed by JP players. And she will also work in normal boss fights. She can be considered a nuker. And I can tell you that her damage may not surpass, but comes close to what you get with Bertrand or the latest version of Rock Bouquet. Bertrand can also debuff intelligence, so they are similar on that. Bertrand is much better defensively, that is. But again, the good thing about Elysed is that her elemental types are very different. Lightning and Pierce does not face so much competition, especially now that we want some nukers that can also apply something else, not just damage. It brings intelligence debuffs and this action order down as well. Now, as for inheritance, to tell you the truth, only Water of Life Plus matters, because she has some love and charisma and she can actually heal when desperately need. All the other spells are based on applying paralysis, and that only works for Yuquin. Besides that, nothing stands out. She is a character that comes as she is, and she works for damage, she works for Spiral, will be interesting in the future, and receives a triple S grade in the tier list. I cannot say that she is a must-have. She has this action order down, special effect, but it's not something that you use all the time. The last character is Sacha, and she has just okay endurance, goodwill, just good intelligence and agility as well. Nothing here stands out, and she has just a little above the average love and charisma because she can heal. Passive number 1, selective buyer. By the end of a turn, she recovers her HP by around 300 and also 2 BP. Also, by the end of 5 turns, counting from the start of battle, so 5, 10, 15, and something like that, she will restore the use limit of Arita Pneuma by 1, and get 3 BP. I'll talk more about that later. Then Energizing Guard gives her a 25% chance on the start of a turn to grant a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 25%, and gives all surviving allies 1 BP as well. There's also Latent Bloom Defense, where we get 20% damage increase, and by start of a turn she gets defense up medium, that decreases damage taken by 10% for the whole fight, for stacks of 5 times, and that can lead you to around 40% damage reduction. But she starts with only 10 on the start of a fight, she's gonna take much more damage than some of the recent units. And for skills we have Aqua Bubbles, a full AoE attack with cold and shadow damage, only E power and 2 BP cost, that will always recover HP by around 300, and also has a 10% chance to recover by around 1.2 thousand. Well, that 1.2 thousand is pretty rare, should not rely on that. Skill number 2 is called Ocean Veil. It's a single target cold attack with A power and 6 BP cost. Damage is not important, it's not big, but she applies defense boost small, that decreases damage taken by 15%, lasts for 2 turns and can even stack. Well, she gets 5 EP per turn. That means that she can use this 2 times, and you have an average of -15, -15% during the fight. Some turns you will not have enough EP, but most of it you have. Well, since she does not have any other extra layer of defense, this is not really that great, but can be used. Then we have Arita Pneuma, a fast support skill that can only be used once per battle till we recharge, and it will decrease the BP cost of all skills for Unchosen Online by 10 points and lasts for 2 turns. Then she also grants the ally an attack boost, increasing damage potential by 25% on rank 1 or 30% on rank max. That needs to be manually leveled up if you want that 5% damage increase. Well, this is interesting. Reducing it by 10 for 2 turns can lead to some interesting strategies like Mirza with his left fork. His latest style is just very powerful, and he can use that left fork from his New Year style. That's a 13 BP attack. That would decrease that for only 3. His latest style gets at least 5 per turn. That means that if you use it Sacha on turn 1, you decrease the left fork cost to 3. And if he gets 5, you actually start the next turn with Mirza having, for example, 12. Then you're going to use on their left fork. You're going to start turn 3 with 14. That is if you don't get any chase. Mirza gets another 2 BP if he chases. So, with 14, you can actually use on their left fork on turn 3. But that is the end, unless he gets chases to get more BP. It's interesting, but I do believe that Valder already does that much more effectively. Remember Valder? Well, Valder gives you 2 defense boosts as well. Then he gives that passively. He gives you Scrum Guard, decreasing by 20%. Then he gives you another 15% damage reduction via attacks. Anytime he attacks, he gives you that. High Spirit Pawn will decrease the BP cost by 2 and lasts for 2 turns, but it's for everyone. If you are using Mirza, your left fork is gonna cost 11. And if you start the fight using that other skill that he has access to, that gives him damage increase, that is Heroic Stance. You can use this 2 times, and then after that, you will have some surplus BP because of that end of turn recover, and you can nuke more often with left fork. It works better with Mirza because that Heroic Stance costs 6, you decrease that to 4, and you actually get 9 BP back by use of Heroic Stance. Then when he starts nuking, he will always get benefit from Valder. If you were to use Sacha on Mirza right on start, you will have to ignore Heroic Stance, because decreasing the cost by 10 only matters if all your skills that are supposed to be used have high cost. One way to do this is to hold on Sacha and then use her skill after you use Heroic Stance already, so that you can actually nuke with left fork 3 times, and then you can use again another time her skill, because it will recharge on turn 5, but you can only use that on turn 6. Another time Arita Pneuma, and hope that Mirza can keep nuking with left fork. One way to fix this is to actually start Mirza using Heroic Stance 2 times, and then use Sacha skill on turn 3, so that your left forks will cost much less, and you get some extra BP because of Heroic Stance. That will lead you to use left fork probably 4 times in a row, so that Sacha will recover her skill on turn 5 and use it again on turn 6, so you have another 2 left forks after that, for a total of maybe 6. Yes, maybe 6 or even more. But that is what you are bringing Sacha just to increase the potential of a single character. You are bringing an enabler, and at least she starts with enough BP to use her Arita Pneuma. But still, Arita Pneuma is a very costly spell that will lead you into not being able to use Ocean Veil all the time. Actually start with Ocean Veil if you want, but then switch to Aqua Bubbles in order to have enough BP by turn 3 to use Arita Pneuma. And then after that, you have to choose between Aqua Bubbles and Ocean Veil to have enough BP to use Arita Pneuma again. I don't think this cycle is just too good, because Valder in the end really helps more, because he gives the party the damage reduction and also decreases the BP cost for everyone. Everyone becomes better. And I also think that Sacha is inferior to Socho, because Socho can do more. He gives 10 BP to everyone. If you say that she decreases the BP cost by 10, she's actually selecting Socho's skill to 2 targets that are the same. Socho actually generates 40 BP. She generates 20. So double the value with Socho, but for everyone, not for a specific target. Also, Socho has that taunt, and counter that he can actually self-heal and buff dexterity, and is even better defensively. So, Sacha has a triple S grade, Valder has an OP grade. I must say that Sacha is an SS plus grade because she is inferior to those two, although she can actually surprise you when she is well used, in the case of Pirza for example, where he can actually perform much better, but it's actually not much different to what you get when using him with Sacha or Valder. Although we were talking mostly about Pirza, there are other characters that benefit from said BP generation. For example, Polka in his chef style by inheritance of his Steel Blade Phoenix, he can actually use this more often to heal. There's also the latest version of Liz, where she can actually use her Karatsu Water Wall more often. That is a skill that decreases damage taken by 50%. It's pretty strong. You will not have a perfect cycle of using this every turn though. There are other characters as well, like for example, Apollo, that has some BP problems, where he wants to get Quattro Pumpkin Shield that uses 10 BP, then when using this, he gets a Chains on Overdrive that buffs Will, interesting for some very specific times. There's also the latest version of Arthur that needs some BP in order to use his skill called Talon Birth. He can actually trigger it by himself, but sometimes it's hard to. Another character may need that BP decrease is Noel. Noel can actually heal more often now, even if he does not get to Chase. Besides Noel, there's also her Benial companion, Final Empress. For example, you can actually use Karatsu's Stereo Blade now 4 times in a row to get that evasion part that's very useful in some boss fights. There are many different ways to use this BP generation, and, well, share here in the comment section how you want to plan on using the character. Now, as for inheritance, we have some options here, but I believe people will choose a heal spell, either from her welfare style or from her Christmas Global Axe style. And there is also this Waterhammer for intelligence debuff if you really desperately need something like this. But she does not need any besides Water of Life for also very specific situations where you cannot use your main healer and need to revive. Sacha is interesting, but like I said, inferior to the other 2 BP generators, and if you already have them, there's no much reason to get this one. And even then, the next BP generator is a protagonist, and his name is Shirei, or something similar, I don't know. And he gives BP to the whole party while increasing the BP limit, much better than what Sacha does. So Sacha is actually the less interesting character and the most skippable one. Back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, yes. I'll give this a gold minus award because of the greatness that is Final Empress. She is a meta unit that will work for the foreseeable future, receiving an OP grade. Then we have a very powerful nuker with Elysed that also brings a very specific mechanic. It does not compete with most of our best damage dealers. And Sacha, that although inferior to the 2 BP generators that we have, it still works. All the 3 units are good. So the banner is actually worth pulling, in my opinion, better than the Bunny's banner as well, unless you desperately need for support on gun members. And the banner works for both veterans and new players. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.